Child of my heart, I have been watching your family, not from a distance, not as a curious observer passing by and glancing through a window, but the way a father watches the people he built his entire kingdom around. I have seen the way you gather together and share moments that carry more weight than anyone at that table fully realizes. I have noticed the quiet sacrifices you make for the people under your roof, the ones you never mention to anyone because you do not do them for recognition or applause. You do them because love taught you something that the world still struggles to understand, that giving without keeping score is the purest reflection of who I am. And when you give that way, when you pour yourself into the well-being of the people closest to you without demanding anything in return, you look so much like me that the angels pause to admire what they are witnessing. My love covers every room in your house. I want you to sit with that truth for a while, because I have so much to pour into your understanding about what I am doing in your family, what I have already done, and what I am preparing for every single person who carries your last name or shares the walls of your home. This is not a casual conversation between distant parties. This is a father opening his chest and showing you the blueprints he drew long before your family ever existed in the physical world. Every person in your household was placed there with intention. Every relationship under your roof has a purpose that stretches far beyond what you can currently measure with your human understanding. The connections between the people in your household were not random arrangements. They were divine appointments that I orchestrated with the same care and precision I used when I hung the stars in the sky and named every constellation. I know there are fractures. I am not pretending that everything under your roof is peaceful at every given moment, because that would be dishonest, and I am not a God who deals in dishonesty. Families are complex because people are complex, and the enemy has always known that if he can divide a household, he can weaken the foundation that holds generations together. He studies the fault lines in your relationships the way an engineer studies the cracks in a dam, looking for the precise point where a small amount of pressure could cause maximum damage. But here is what he does not understand, and what I need you to absorb deeply into your spirit. The cracks in your household are not evidence of failure. They are evidence of something worth attacking. No enemy wastes ammunition on an empty house. No darkness bothers to assault a place where there is nothing of value. The fact that your household has faced opposition, disagreement, seasons of distance, and moments of painful silence is proof that there is something inside those walls that the darkness is threatened by, and that something is my presence pulsing through the veins of your household like a heartbeat that refuses to stop. Let me take you somewhere important right now. I want to show you your loved ones through my eyes, because the way you see them and the way I see them are two entirely different pictures hanging on two entirely different walls. You see the arguments that happen when stress builds up and everyone is carrying more than they can hold. I see hearts that care enough to fight for what they believe in. Hearts that are so invested in the outcome of this household that they cannot pretend indifference, even when indifference would be more comfortable. You see the distance between certain people under your roof, the ones who do not talk as much as they used to, the ones who seem to have drifted into their own separate worlds, where the connections that once felt easy now feel strained and awkward. But I see the invisible thread that still connects them, the one woven from shared memories and common blood, and a love that never fully disappears, no matter how silent it becomes. That thread is not fragile. It is made from something the enemy cannot cut. because it was spun in my workshop with my own hands. You see the person in your home who seems furthest from me, the one whose choices keep you up wondering, and whose path makes your chest tight with worry every time you think about where they are heading. But I see someone I have not given up on. Not for a single second. Not even in the moments when they gave up on themselves. Not even when they said things that made it sound like they wanted nothing to do with me. I heard the words they said out loud, but I also heard the words they whispered underneath. The ones even they did not realize they were saying. The ones that sounded like, "Help me, find me. Do not let me disappear into this darkness forever." And I responded to those hidden words with a pursuit that has not slowed down and will not slow down until they are safely back in the arms of their people, both earthly and heavenly, where they have always belonged. Your household is a garden that I planted with my own hands before time had a name. Some of the seeds took root quickly and grew into visible, flourishing expressions of my goodness. You can see those easily, those among your loved ones who pray, who believe, who carry their faith openly and without apology, who make you proud when you watch them navigate difficult situations with a wisdom that could only come from spending time in my presence. But there are other seeds that I planted in deeper soil, the kind of soil that takes longer to break through, the kind that requires more patience and more rain and more seasons of hidden development before anything becomes visible on the surface. Those seeds are not dead. They are not defective. They are not mistakes that slipped past my quality control. They are developing root systems that will eventually produce fruit so abundant that it will shock everyone who assumed nothing was growing there at all. Those who seem spiritually dormant are not lost causes. They are late bloomers in a garden tended by a gardener who has all the time in eternity and none of the impatience that makes humans want to pull up plants before they are ready. I want you to understand something about the way I operate within families that most people miss because they are looking for the dramatic when I am often working in the microscopic. The transformation of a household does not usually happen through one explosive moment of revelation. It happens through 10,000 small adjustments, invisible course corrections that redirect the trajectory of a relationship by fractions of a degree, imperceptible in the moment, but monumental over the span of years. A word of kindness spoken during an argument that prevents the argument from becoming a wound. A decision to listen instead of react that creates enough space for the other person to feel safe enough to be honest. A choice to stay present during a difficult conversation instead of retreating into the familiar fortress of silence. These are the building blocks of the home I am constructing through you, and each one matters more than you will ever fully comprehend from your current vantage point. The way I love your loved ones individually is different for each person, because each person is different and requires a different expression of the same infinite love. The child who needs firm boundaries is not receiving less love than the child who needs gentle encouragement. The spouse who needs space is not receiving less attention than the spouse who needs closeness. I am fluent in every love language that has ever existed, and many that have not yet been named, and I am speaking each one simultaneously to every member of your household in the exact dialect their heart requires. This is what it means to have a God who is personal. Not personal in the generic sense, but personal in the detailed, specific, I know what this particular person needs at this particular moment in their journey sense. I am blessing your household in ways that do not always translate into immediate visibility. Some of the blessings I have released over your household are still traveling through the spiritual atmosphere. making their way past every obstacle the enemy has tried to position between my hand and your front door. He has erected barriers of doubt. He has constructed walls of discouragement. He has dug trenches of division and filled them with bitterness, hoping that the blessings I sent would get stuck somewhere in transit and never reach their intended destination. But nothing he has placed in the way has the authority to permanently block what I have declared over the people you love. My word does not return to me empty. It never has. It never will. When I spoke over your lineage at the beginning, when I assigned purpose to your lineage and destiny to your name, that word went out with the full force of heaven behind it, and it will accomplish everything I sent it to accomplish, regardless of what tries to stand in its path. There is something happening in the hearts of the people in your home that you cannot see yet, because it is operating below the surface of what your natural eyes can detect. I am softening places that have been hard for years, places where pain compacted the soil of someone's heart until it became impenetrable to tenderness. I am reaching into resentments that have calcified like stone and introducing warmth that will eventually cause those walls to crumble from the inside out. It is a slow process because I respect the complexity of what I am working with. Human hearts are not simple mechanisms with a single switch. They are intricate landscapes with layers of experience, memory, belief, and wound that must be navigated with precision and gentleness. And I am navigating every single one of them in your household with the care of a surgeon whose hands have never trembled and whose attention has never wandered. The person under your roof who seems the most resistant to change is the one I am working on the hardest, because I can see the potential trapped underneath all that defensiveness. They did not build those walls because they are strong. They built them because they were wounded, and the only blueprint they had for protection was isolation. Someone taught them, whether through words or through example, that vulnerability leads to devastation, and so they armored themselves against everything, including the very love that could set them free. But I am a God who specializes in entering locked rooms. I walked through closed doors after my resurrection, and I have not lost that ability. I do not need an invitation from them when I already have an invitation from you. Your prayers for the ones you love have been opening doors in the spiritual realm that your loved ones do not even know exist. And through those doors, I am sending healing, revelation, conviction, tenderness, and the kind of divine interruption that rearranges everything. My love covers every room in your house. Let me tell you about the inheritance I am building for your household, because it is more valuable than anything the world could offer and more permanent than anything human hands could construct. It is not made of gold or property or financial assets, although those are things I am capable of providing and have every intention of providing when the timing aligns with my purpose. The inheritance I am most excited about is the spiritual foundation that is being laid through your faithfulness. Every time you choose me over the noise of the world, you are depositing something into a generational account that your children and their children will draw from long after you have finished your race on this earth. Your faith is not just for you. It is infrastructure. It is the framework upon which future generations will build their own relationship with me. And they will look back at your life and understand that the reason they found it so natural to believe is because someone before them paid the price of trust in seasons when trust was the most expensive currency available. Do you understand the weight of what I am telling you? The struggles you are enduring right now among your loved ones, the prayers that feel unanswered, the conversations that feel impossible, the gaps between what you want for your loved ones and what currently exists in the visible realm. All of it is construction material. Nothing is being wasted. Not a single tear, not a single sleepless stretch of worry, not a single moment of intercession that felt like it bounced off the ceiling and came back without reaching its destination. Every tear you have shed over a wayward child has been collected in a vessel that I keep close to my throne. Every whispered prayer for a spouse who seems spiritually distant has been recorded in a book that I read with the attention of someone who cares about every syllable. Every silent cry for unity in a household that feels fragmented has reached my ears with a clarity that would astound you if you could hear what I hear. And I am using every single drop to build something so beautiful that when you finally see it completed, you will fall to your knees, not with sadness, but with overwhelming awe at how precisely I used the most painful pieces of your story to construct the most stunning chapters of your generational legacy. I want to speak now to the worry you carry about specific people in your life, the ones whose names surface immediately when I talk about blessings and restoration. You know exactly who they are. Their faces appeared in your mind before I even finished the sentence. There is one whose choices have caused you stretches of concern so heavy that your body bore the weight physically, in your shoulders, in your stomach, in the tightness behind your eyes that comes from holding back emotions you feel you cannot release. There is another whose heart seems closed to anything related to faith, who changes the subject when spiritual conversations arise, who rolls their eyes at the mention of prayer, or dismisses what you believe as something they have outgrown. And there might be one who is physically distant, separated by geography, or by decisions that created a chasm neither of you fully understands or knows how to bridge. I see every single one of them. I know their names better than you do because I am the one who chose those names in the eternal registry before their parents ever held them. I know the number of hairs on their heads, and the number changes every single day. And I keep count without effort, because paying attention to the details of my children's lives is not a burden to me. It is a delight. I know the thoughts they carry when they are alone, the ones they would never speak out loud to another human being, the questions they ask in the quiet moments when no one is listening. And I want you to know that the same love that pursued you through every season of resistance and rebellion and indifference until you finally surrendered is pursuing them with identical intensity and identical patience. My love does not have favorites, it has timing. And the timing I have for the people you love is not late, it is precise. The patience I have for the people you love is deeper than any ocean you have ever seen or imagined. And patience, in my vocabulary, is not passive waiting. It is active pursuit combined with perfect timing. I am not sitting in heaven hoping that your loved ones will eventually stumble their way back to me through random chance. I am orchestrating encounters, arranging circumstances, positioning people and conversations and moments of divine interruption along the path of every person in your lineage who has not yet surrendered to the love that has been chasing them since the day they were conceived. Their resistance does not discourage me. Their arguments do not offend me. Their silence does not confuse me. I understand every layer of what is happening inside them because I am the one who designed the heart they are using to resist. And I know exactly where the hidden doors are. The ones that open from the inside when the right word is spoken at the right moment by the right voice. Sometimes that voice will be yours. Sometimes it will be a stranger they meet in an unexpected place. Sometimes it will be the voice of their own memory, reminding them of a season when they believed and felt alive in a way that nothing else has been able to replicate. And sometimes it will be my voice, speaking directly into the depths of their spirit at 3 a.m. when every defense they have built is sleeping, and the real them, the one buried under years of armor and performance and rebellion, is finally quiet enough to hear. There is a conversation that needs to happen among the people you love. You already know which one I am talking about. It has been postponed for so long that the weight of its absence has become a familiar heaviness, almost like furniture that you have learned to walk around without thinking about it. But walking around something is not the same as dealing with it. And I want to clear the path between certain hearts in your household that have been navigating around each other instead of toward each other. This conversation does not need to be perfect. It does not need to resolve every issue in a single sitting. It just needs to begin, and I will be present in it. I will be the mediator that neither party can see, but both can feel. The invisible presence that turns a potentially destructive exchange into a doorway for reconciliation. When the time is right, and you will know when it is because your spirit will feel it before your mind can analyze it, step into that conversation with courage and leave the results entirely in my hands. Stop trying to save your loved ones with your own strength. I know that instinct well, because I wired it into you. The desire to protect, to fix, to hold everything together with the force of your own will is a beautiful impulse that comes from a genuine place of care. But you were never designed to be the savior of your household. That role belongs to me alone, and I take it seriously. Your role is to be a lighthouse, not a rescue boat that capsizes when the waves are too strong. A lighthouse. Steady, visible, consistent, shining with a light that does not fluctuate based on whether the ships around you are heading in the right direction or veering dangerously off course. Your job is to keep burning. My job is to guide them home. And I am exceptionally skilled at guiding lost things home. I have been doing it since the beginning of creation, and I have never once failed to bring back what belongs to me when the fullness of time arrives. Do not underestimate the power of your presence in your family. I am not talking about a performative presence where you show up and go through the motions while your heart and mind are somewhere else entirely. I am talking about the kind of presence that communicates without words, the kind that lets the people around you feel settled and secure simply because you are in the room. When you sit at the table with your family and give them your full attention, even for a few minutes, you are giving them something that the entire world is starving for. You are giving them the experience of being seen by someone who matters to them. And in doing that, you are reflecting me to them in the most tangible way possible, because being fully present with the people I love is exactly what I have been doing since the first human heart began to beat. There is also a gift I want to give your family that has nothing to do with material provision or even spiritual revelation. It is the gift of laughter, real laughter, the kind that comes from the belly and overtakes the body and makes the eyes squeeze shut and the chest ache in the most wonderful way. I want to bring moments of pure, unfiltered joy into your household that have nothing to do with circumstances being perfect and everything to do with the reality that life, even complicated life, even painful life, still contains pockets of absurd, breathtaking beauty that deserve to be celebrated. Let your home be a place where laughter is welcome, Not the kind that mocks or cuts or belittles, but the kind that heals and connects and reminds everyone under your roof that the God they serve is not grim and joyless, but is in fact the author of everything delightful and the creator of every good and perfect gift, including the gift of being able to laugh together. Think about the blessings that are already present in your family that you have stopped noticing because familiarity made them invisible. The fact that there are people in this world who share your blood, your history, your laughter, your tears, your genetic code, your grandmother's eyes, your grandfather's stubborn streak, your mother's tender heart. The fact that you are not walking through this life completely alone, that there are voices who will answer when you call, even if the conversations are imperfect, and sometimes end in frustration rather than resolution. Even in the most fractured home, there is a connection that strangers do not possess, a history that binds hearts in ways that friendship alone cannot replicate. Your home, with all its imperfections, with all its unfinished arguments and unresolved tensions and unhealed wounds, is still one of the greatest gifts I have ever given you. And I need you to start treating it that way again. Not with the heavy burden of trying to fix everyone and manage every outcome, but with the light touch of gratitude that recognizes what already exists before demanding what is still missing. I am entering your home in a fresh way during this season. Not because I was absent before, because I have never been absent from a place where my name is spoken and my presence is welcomed. But there is a new sincerity in your invitation that opens dimensions of blessing that casual faith does not access. When you pray for your household with the kind of desperation that comes from having tried everything else and finding it insufficient, something shifts in the spiritual atmosphere that surrounds your dwelling. Your prayers are not just requests floating upward hoping to be noticed. They are activating covenant promises that have been waiting for a voice to claim them. You are unlocking generational blessings that were stored up by ancestors whose names you may never learn in this lifetime, but whose faithfulness created spiritual reserves that are now available to you and your household. Because the principle of generational blessing does not expire with the death of the person who planted it. Let me describe what I am doing inside the walls of your home right now, in ways you cannot physically observe, but that are more real than the furniture in your living room or the walls that separate one room from another. I am cleansing the atmosphere. Every word spoken in anger that left a stain on the emotional environment of your household. Every argument that deposited residue on the invisible walls where memories live. Every season of tension that seemed to leave a heaviness in the air that nobody could explain but everyone could feel. I am sweeping all of it away with a thoroughness that leaves nothing behind. I am replacing it with a peace that does not come from the absence of conflict, but from the presence of a God who is bigger than any conflict your home has ever faced or will ever face. This peace has a texture to it. It settles into the spaces between people and makes those spaces feel safe again, inhabitable again, warm again. I am also strengthening the bonds between the people under your roof in ways that will surprise you when you begin to notice the evidence. Conversations that seemed impossible will begin to happen naturally without the forced awkwardness of someone trying to manufacture reconciliation. A phone call from someone who has been distant, initiated not out of obligation, but out of a genuine stirring in their spirit that they may not even be able to explain. A softening in the eyes of someone who has been guarded for so long that vulnerability felt like a foreign language. A willingness to listen where there was previously only the desire to be heard and validated. These shifts are not coincidences or random fluctuations in human behavior. They are the fingerprints of my spirit working in the invisible spaces between the people you love. rearranging hearts with the gentleness of a master craftsman who knows exactly which piece needs to move and by how much. For the children in your life, whether they are still small enough to carry or fully grown with families of their own, I have specific plans that are tailored to who they are as individuals, not who you want them to be, and not who the world says they should become. Each one of them carries a design that I encoded into their very cells before they took their first breath, a purpose so unique that the universe would be incomplete without their specific contribution. The one who seems rebellious is often the one with the strongest leadership potential, carrying a fire in their chest that has not yet been shown where to burn. What looks like defiance is often just an untamed version of the courage that will eventually be pointed in the right direction and will accomplish things that compliant personalities never could. The one who seems quiet and withdrawn is often the one with the deepest spiritual sensitivity, processing the world at a depth that more outgoing personalities cannot even imagine. They are not antisocial. They are internal, and the inner world they are building will become a source of wisdom that others will seek out when the noise of the external world becomes unbearable. The one who seems lost in the pleasures and distractions of the world is often the one running from a calling so large that it terrifies them, and everything they are pursuing is just a temporary substitute for the thing they know deep down they were actually made for. I do not make mistakes in design. I make investments in potential, and every child in your household represents an investment I am fully committed to seeing through to completion, regardless of how long the development process takes. I am also doing something in the marriages within your family that deserves to be spoken about directly. Whether it is your own marriage or the marriage of someone you love deeply, I see the strain that has accumulated over time. Two people who once looked at each other with wonder now sometimes look at each other with exhaustion, not because the love disappeared, but because the weight of shared responsibility and unspoken expectations and the daily grind of building a life together can make even the strongest connection feel threadbare. I am reweaving what has worn thin. I am reminding hearts why they chose each other in the first place, not through dramatic gestures or sudden revelations, but through small, consistent moments of reconnection that I am engineering in the ordinary flow of daily life. A glance across the room that lasts half a second longer than usual. A touch on the shoulder that communicates more than an entire conversation. A shared laugh about something small that briefly lifts the heaviness and reminds both people that underneath all the complexity, there is still something worth fighting for. These are my interventions, subtle enough to feel natural, but powerful enough to rebuild what has been eroding. For the elderly members of your family, the ones whose bodies have begun to slow down even as their spirits continue to carry the weight of decades of accumulated wisdom, I have a special tenderness that I want you to participate in. They are not burdens. They are treasures. The stories they carry, the prayers they have prayed over your family for years and years and years, the quiet faith that sustained them through seasons that would have destroyed weaker souls, all of this has created a spiritual deposit in the generational account of your family that is still producing returns. Honor them. Listen to them. Sit with them even when the pace of their world feels slow compared to the speed of yours. Because in the economy of heaven, the wisdom of an elder who has walked with me through decades of testing is worth more than the energy of 100 young minds that have not yet been refined by the fires of faithfulness. Your home is supposed to be a sanctuary, not a museum where perfection is displayed and flaws are hidden behind carefully maintained appearances. Not a courtroom where performance is evaluated, and sentences are handed down for every mistake, but a sanctuary, a place where forgiveness is practiced more frequently than judgment is pronounced, a place where my word is the standard by which decisions are measured, not because anyone in your house is flawless, but because everyone in your house knows where to find the truth when confusion tries to take up residence and start rearranging the furniture of your family's values. I am building that kind of home through you. Through your consistency in seeking me, even when the seeking produces no immediate visible results. Through your willingness to apologize when you are wrong, which teaches your family more about my character than 1,000 sermons ever could. Through your decision to extend grace when others fall short, demonstrating that mercy is not weakness, but the highest expression of strength. Through your commitment to keep showing up at my feet, even on the days when you feel least qualified to lead anyone in any spiritual direction. The financial pressures your household has faced are not evidence of my absence or my indifference. They are evidence of an enemy who understands that financial stress is one of the most effective weapons for creating division within a household. He has studied the data. He knows that when resources are tight, tempers are short. When bills accumulate faster than income, conversations between family members transform from connections into transactions, from shared dreams into shared anxiety. When the future feels financially uncertain, fear moves into the spare bedroom of your household and starts making itself comfortable, putting its feet up on the furniture and acting like it owns the place. But I want you to know something that fear does not want you to hear. I see the financial landscape of your household with the kind of panoramic vision that allows me to see not just where you are, but where you are heading. And the destination is abundance. Not the reckless, undisciplined kind that comes and goes like a wave, but the sustainable, deeply rooted kind that flows from a life aligned with my principles and submitted to my timing. Provision is coming. Opportunities that align with your skills and your values are being positioned along the path ahead of you. Resources that arrive precisely when they are needed, not a moment too early and not a moment too late, are already in motion. Doors that open not because you forced them, but because I placed the hinges there long before you arrived, are waiting for your footsteps. My love covers every room in your house. I also want to address the guilt you sometimes carry about your role within your household. The nagging feeling that you should be doing more, praying more consistently, being more emotionally available, handling difficult situations with more wisdom and less reaction. That guilt is not from me. I want to be very clear about that because the enemy often disguises his accusations in the clothing of spiritual conviction, making you think that the voice telling you that you are not enough is my voice. It is not. I do not motivate my children through shame or inadequacy. I motivate through love, through invitation, through the gentle pull of a father who says, "Come closer," rather than the harsh push of a critic who says, "Try harder." The love I have for you in every role you occupy within your family, whether you are a parent, a sibling, a child caring for aging parents, a spouse navigating the complexity of shared life, whatever role you fill, that love is not conditional on your performance within that role. You do not have to earn the blessings I am pouring over your household. You never could, because my blessings flow from my nature, not your resume. Forgive yourself for the moments you feel you failed the people closest to you. I know which moments you are thinking of right now. The harsh words that left your mouth before you could catch them, propelled by exhaustion and frustration, and the accumulated weight of carrying too much for too long. The times you were physically present but emotionally somewhere else entirely, because the weight of your own internal battles consumed all the attention you had available and left nothing for the people who needed you. The decisions you made that you now see with the painful clarity of hindsight and wish desperately you could undo. Let me tell you something that should change the way you carry those memories. I took all of that into account when I designed my plan for your family. Every mistake you would make, every failure you would endure, every moment of weakness that would make you question your fitness for the role I gave you, I saw all of it before you were born, and I assigned you to your family anyway. None of your mistakes surprised me. None of them derailed the destiny I wrote over your household. They became part of the story, yes, but not the defining chapters. The defining chapters are the ones I am writing right now, in this very season, through every act of faith and every prayer and every choice you make to keep believing even when the evidence in front of you does not match the promise pulsing inside your heart. There is someone in your family who needs to hear what I am about to say, and because they are not in this place right now, I am going to say it through you, and I am trusting you to deliver it when the moment is right. Tell them that their value is not determined by the opinion of anyone who failed to see them properly. Tell them that the rejection they experienced, whether from a parent, a partner, a friend, or a community, was not my verdict on their worth. Rejection from humans is not a reflection of rejection from heaven. Tell them that I have been keeping a record of every unkind word spoken over their identity, not to punish the speakers, but to replace every single lie with a truth so resonant and so persistent that the memory of the insult eventually becomes completely inaudible. Tell them they are loved beyond their comprehension, not in the general, abstract, theological sense that applies to everyone equally and therefore feels personal to no one. In the specific, deliberate, I chose you before the foundation of the world, and I would choose you. Again, sense that makes the knees buckle and the tears flow and the heart feel like it might burst from the pressure of being so thoroughly known and so completely accepted. Your family is entering a season that will feel different from what you have known. Not because your circumstances will become flawless overnight, because that is not how I work, and it would not serve you if it were, but because the way you experience those circumstances is going to shift at a fundamental level. Where there was heaviness that pressed down on every interaction and made even simple conversations feel exhausting, I am introducing a lightness that comes from knowing who is in charge and trusting his character completely. Where there was anxiety about the future of your family, about the trajectory of specific members, about whether the prayers you have been praying will ever produce the results you have been imagining, I am planting a confidence that is rooted not in predictability, but in the unchanging character of the God who holds every member of your family in the palm of his hand and has never dropped anything he chose to hold. There is something else I need to address before we move forward, and it concerns the relationships in your family that carry the deepest scars, the ones between parents and children where trust was broken at an age when trust was supposed to be the most reliable thing in a small person's world, the ones between siblings who were once inseparable but who allowed adult complications to build walls that childhood closeness never anticipated, the ones between spouses who married with hearts full of expectation and found that the reality of shared life tested every single one of those expectations. I am not overlooking those wounds. I am not suggesting that you pretend they do not exist, or that you skip the hard work of honest reckoning by covering everything with a thin layer of spiritual language. What I am telling you is that I am standing in the middle of those wounded relationships with the specific intention of bringing genuine restoration, not the kind that papers over the cracks, but the kind that fills them with gold, making the repaired places stronger and more beautiful than the original unbroken surface ever was. Your family's story is not defined by its worst chapters. It is defined by the author who is writing it, and that author is me. I specialize in narratives that look hopeless in the middle, but breathtaking at the end. I have been crafting family stories since the beginning of human history, and I have never once looked at a family situation and concluded that the damage was beyond the reach of my creative power. The same God who spoke light into a universe that was formless and void is capable of speaking restoration into a family that feels fragmented and lost. And speaking it is exactly what I am doing. Begin speaking blessings over your family with your actual voice, not silently in the privacy of your thoughts, but with the authority of someone who understands that words carry creative power, because they are made in the image of a God who spoke galaxies into existence with nothing but the sound of his voice. Speak life over your children by name. Speak purpose over your spouse. Speak reconciliation over the relationships that have been wounded by years of accumulated small injuries that nobody addressed when they were small and now feel enormous. Speak abundance over the areas of your family life that have experienced lack, whether financial, emotional, relational, or spiritual. Your words, when aligned with my will and spoken with the faith that comes from knowing who your Father is, become instruments of transformation that operate in dimensions your physical eyes cannot perceive, but that are more real and more permanent than anything the natural world contains. I have not forgotten the prayers you stopped praying because the waiting became too heavy to sustain. The ones about your marriage that you whispered for years before your voice went silent. The ones about your children that you spoke with such passion and regularity that they became the rhythm of your daily communion with me, until the day the silence of unanswered waiting made you wonder whether the rhythm was reaching anyone at all. Those prayers did not expire when your voice fell quiet. They are still alive. They are still working. They are still active in the spiritual realm, producing results in places you cannot access with your limited human perception. Every single request you ever made concerning your family is filed in a place where nothing gets lost in the archives and nothing gets overlooked by the administrator. Some of those prayers are being answered right now in ways that will not become visible for some time, like seeds that have germinated underground but have not yet broken through the soil. Others have already been answered in ways you have not recognized, because the answer arrived wearing different clothing than you expected, and you walked right past it without realizing it was the very thing you asked for. As I prepare what is ahead for your family, I need you to do something that feels counterintuitive to everything your protective instincts are screaming at you. Release the people you love from the prisons of your expectations. I know that sounds dangerous. I know it feels like letting go of the steering wheel while the vehicle is still in motion. But your expectations, however well-intentioned they may be, can become cages that prevent the people you love from growing into the version of themselves that I designed. Love them as they are while believing in who they are becoming. This is the kind of love I have always shown you, and it is the most transformative force in the universe. I never waited for you to be perfect before I committed myself to your well-being. I loved you in your worst season with the same ferocity, that I love you in your best. Give your family members that same gift. The one who frustrates you the most might be the one whose spirit is most desperately craving the safety of unconditional acceptance. The one who seems the least deserving of grace might be the one standing closest to a transformation that your patience alone could make possible. Your household is not just a collection of walls and rooms and shared utilities. It is a spiritual territory that carries the authority of the one who dwells within it, and I dwell within it. My name has been spoken in your home. My word has been read under your roof. My spirit has been invited into the atmosphere of your family life, and because of that, there is a protection over your household that the enemy cannot penetrate with any weapon in his arsenal. No curse spoken over your family from the outside will take root in soil that has been consecrated by my presence. No plan designed to destroy the bonds between the people under your roof will accomplish its full purpose. Because I am a God who guards what belongs to me with a jealousy that is not possessive but protective, not controlling but fiercely committed to the flourishing of every person I call mine. The peace I am releasing into your home is not a temporary calm that will dissipate the moment the next conflict arises. It is a foundational shift in the spiritual atmosphere of your dwelling. It is the kind of peace that does not pack its bags and leave when the door opens and the noise of the world tries to enter uninvited. It is the kind of peace that remains embedded in the walls, in the quality of conversations around the dinner table, in the way family members look at each other across a room and communicate volumes without speaking a single word. This peace is my gift to you and to everyone who shares your address. Accept it without analyzing it. Receive it without questioning whether you deserve it. Simply open your hands the way a child opens their hands to receive something precious from a parent who has been planning this particular gift for a very long time. I also want to speak to you about the spiritual covering that exists over your family because of your decision to walk with me. You may not fully understand the mechanics of what is happening in the unseen realm, but I want to pull back the curtain just enough for you to glimpse the protection that surrounds the people you love. When you committed your life to me, you did not just secure your own spiritual safety. You created a zone of protection that extends over your entire household. Not because your faith is perfect, but because the God your faith is placed in is perfectly capable of defending what has been entrusted to his care. There are attacks that have been aimed at your family that never reached their target. There are plans that were drawn up in dark places with your family's name on them that were intercepted and dismantled before they could be executed. There are traps that were set along the path your children walk every single day that my angels removed before their feet arrived at the location where the trap was waiting. You will never know, on this side of eternity, the full extent of what I have been shielding you from. But if you could see the list, you would weep with gratitude, and you would never again wonder whether your prayers for protection are accomplishing anything. The enemy does not get the final word over your family. He gets a temporary voice. He gets to whisper lies and plant seeds of doubt and agitate conflicts and exploit vulnerabilities. That is the extent of his power, and even that limited power operates within the boundaries I have established. He cannot cross the line I have drawn around the people who belong to me, and your family belongs to me. Every generation, every member, every name, every future descendant who will one day look at the family tree and trace their faith back to a specific person who refused to let go of my hand, even when holding on hurt and letting go seemed so much easier. That person is you. And the decision you are making right now to keep believing, to keep praying, to keep standing in the gap for the people you love, is securing a legacy that the enemy cannot steal, corrupt, or destroy, no matter how many strategies he deploys against your household. I have placed a seal on your home. It is invisible to the natural eye, but unmistakable to any spiritual being who approaches your dwelling with harmful intent. That seal bears my name, and my name carries an authority that predates the universe and will outlast it. Nothing that comes against your family will be able to ignore that seal. Every principality, every power, every ruler of darkness, every spiritual force of wickedness in the heavenly places must acknowledge the authority of the name written over your front door. And that name is mine. Your praise reaches my throne. Did you know that? When you worship in the middle of your family circumstances, when you choose gratitude while the situation still looks incomplete, and the picture still has missing pieces, and the story still has unwritten chapters, you are activating a principle of heaven that unlocks provision and breakthrough in ways that human logic alone cannot explain. Your worship is not background noise to me. It is the most beautiful sound in the universe, especially when it comes from a heart that is choosing to trust me in the middle of a family situation that has not yet resolved. Your gratitude is a key that opens a door, and behind that door is a room filled with every good thing I have been storing up for your family since the moment I decided they would exist and gave them the gift of being connected to you. I want to paint a picture for you of what your family looks like from my perspective in the season that is approaching. I see laughter returning to spaces where tension used to live. I see conversations happening that bypass the surface level and reach the deep places where real connection is formed and real healing takes place. I see a child in your family making a decision that surprises everyone around them, a decision that points toward me instead of away from me, and the ripple effect of that single choice spreading through your entire household, like warmth spreading from a fire that was almost extinguished but refused to go out. I see a financial provision arriving at your doorstep that is so perfectly timed and so specifically tailored to your family's need that it eliminates any possibility of coincidence and leaves only the explanation of divine orchestration. I see reconciliation between two people in your family who have been at odds for so long that everyone else had given up on the possibility of restoration. But I had not given up because giving up is not something I know how to do. None of this is wishful thinking. None of it is vague spiritual language designed to make you feel momentarily encouraged before the feeling fades. This is the word of a God who does not speak casually and does not make promises he lacks the power or the intention to fulfill. What I have declared over your family will come to pass. Not because you earned it through perfect behavior, or flawless parenting, or consistent church attendance, or any other metric that humans use to measure spiritual worthiness. It will come to pass because I chose your family. I love your family, and my love has never been defeated by anything it encountered in the entire history of the universe. Walk forward into the days ahead with your head lifted and your heart anchored. Your family is my project, and I do not abandon my projects. Your home is my dwelling place, and I do not leave my dwelling places unattended. Your loved ones are my concern, and I do not treat my concerns casually. Everything I am, everything I have, everything I am capable of doing is being deployed on behalf of the people who gather under your roof and call your house their home. and the fullness of blessing that I am orchestrating for your family will be so evident, so unmistakable, so clearly marked with my signature that everyone who observes your household will know beyond any doubt that the hand of a loving God has been at work in your midst. Before I close this conversation, I want to make you a promise that I have never broken and never will. I will be faithful to your family. In the seasons of celebration, when everything seems to align and the blessings are flowing and the relationships are thriving, I will be there celebrating with you, the proudest father at the table. And in the seasons of struggle, when the ground beneath your household seems to shift and the stability you built feels threatened by forces beyond your control, I will be there with my hand underneath everything, preventing the collapse that the enemy was counting on. My faithfulness is not a variable that fluctuates based on your family's performance. It is a constant, as unchanging as my nature, as reliable as the sunrise, as permanent as the love that set this entire story in motion. I love you with a love that started before you were born and will continue long after the stars have burned out and the galaxies have folded into silence. I love the people you love with that same ancient, unshakable, relentless affection. I love the ones who do not yet know they are loved, the ones in your family who have not yet encountered me in the personal, life-changing way that you have. And I am pursuing them with a patience and a persistence that will eventually win. My love, which is the most powerful force in all of existence, stronger than death, deeper than any ocean, wider than the distance between the farthest stars, is more than capable of finishing what it started in your family. Trust me with the people your heart beats for. I will handle them with more care than you ever could, because I made them, I know them, and I have plans for each one of them that are good and hopeful, and filled with a future that gleams with the brightness of my glory, reflected in the faces of people you love, who are finally walking in the fullness of everything I designed them to be. Amen. If this message touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear these words today. Type Amen in the comments to receive this blessing. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a message from God to your heart. Every time you share, you are planting a seed of hope in someone else's life. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And remember, God's love for you and your family is not just a promise. It is a reality that is unfolding in your life right now, even in the areas you cannot yet see.